These poems, as Nicholson tells you, usually began with a nasib. I don't know if we have that in the Nicholson material here. Let me see if I can find it here now. Let's see. I'm talking about pages. Let's see if we can. Working off a book without an index is really tough. Anyone see what page in the Nicholson book this material about the nasib is? Let's see, Nicholson even gives you the different verse styles. Oh, here it is. Page 77 in Nicholson. This is written from a writer that we're going to hear more about when we talk about prose. Another writer from the late 800s, Ibn Qutayba, a prose writer who wrote on different subjects. Ibn Qutayba means son of the fleet. I've heard, says Ibn Qutayba, from a man of learning, that the composer of odes began by mentioning the deserted dwelling places and the relics and traces of habitation. Then he wept and complained and addressed the desolate encampment and begged his companion to make a halt in order that he might have occasion to speak of those who had once lived there and afterwards departed. For the dwellers in tents were different from the townsmen or villagers in respect of coming and going, because they moved from one water spring to another, seeking pasture and searching out the places where rain had fallen. Then to this he linked the erotic prelude, nasib, and bewailed the violence of his love and anguish, separation from his mistress, the extremity of his passion and desire, so as to win the hearts of hearers and divert their eyes towards him and invite their ears to listen to him, since the song of love touches men's souls, takes hold of their hearts. God, having put it in the constitution of his creatures, to love the lions and the sight of women in such wise that we find very few but are attached thereto by some tie or have some share therein, whether lawful or unpermitted. And when the poet had assured himself in this manner of an attentive hearing on the part of his audience, he followed up this advantage and set forth his claim, which was to be rewarded. Thus he went on to complain of fatigue, want of sleep, traveling by night, noonday heat, how his camel had been reduced to leanness. And when, after representing all the discomfort and danger of his journey, he knew that he had fully justified his hope and expectation of receiving his due reward from the person to whom the poem was addressed, he entered into the panegyric, the madih, inciting, that is, praising the one he wanted to reward him, and kindling his generosity by exalting him above all his peers, pronouncing the greatest dignity in comparison with his to be of little. That's from Ibn Qutayba, and that's his discussion of the nasib. The nasib is this sort of love prelude, and we have several perfect ones here in the poetry before us. Let's see now if I can. I'm working on 3 different sources here. In this Arbery version of this, halt friends, both let us weep, recalling a love and a longing by the rim of twisted sands. This is page 20 of Aspects of Islamic Civilization, between Edakul and Hamal, Tudik and El Mikrat, whose trace is not yet effaced for all the spinning of the south winds and the northern blasts. Pretty terrible translation. There all about its yards and away in its dry hollows you may see the dung of antelopes spattered like peppercorns upon the morn of separation, the day they loaded to depart by the tribes acacias. It was like I was splitting a colocynth there. My companions halted their beasts a while over me, saying, don't perish of sorrow, restrain yourself decently, yet the true and only cure of grief is tears outpoured. What is there left to lean on where the trace is obliterated? So there's an example of a nasib type of event. The poet comes to an abandoned campsite, sees the signs of life that used to live there, and remembers an old love that he had had. Now it's interesting that Ibn Qutayba should tell you about that, about the people's hearts reacting, responding, and favorably to the story of love. Love ingratiates itself to the hearer more than any other thing. Yes. And advertisers do that today. on television, and whenever you see an ad, they have a beautiful woman cooking over a barbecue or something like that, or a hunk of a man, about, all, bulging with muscles or something. They don't have Woody Allen there drinking a beer or something like that, They have some hunk of some kind there, either advertising, putting Irish Spring soap on his body or something like that, or the woman is half naked, cavorting around, and then the point of the ad comes somewhere after this nascent, this love prelude. And it's totally widespread even today in the way advertisers work, as you can yourselves better imagine it than I can explain it. So this is not new. In fact, it's very, very old, as you see, because they were doing it back in the days of Arab poetry. But it's the Nicholson gives you all the different rhythms. There were something like 16 different rhythms he gives you, and it was all very well laid out in the kind of da 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 da, very complex rhythms with a rhyme at the end. And they had names: Al-Hawil, I think, long; Al-Hafif, light. I guess it was Al-Tawil, long; Al-Hafif, light; Rajaz, trembling, and so on. Different names for all the rhythms. Nicholson gives you all of the rhythms of the various poems. Nicholson's very good on this. That's why I use him. Now, even in India today, when you had the Beetle Revolution and Ravi Shankar came to America and was playing on the sitar and things of that kind, he was playing what? Rajas. Rajas. Well, that's right from the Arabic word for the rhythm of the pre-Islamic Bedouin poetry. They called them, even in India today, Rajas. And that was one of the rhythms of the pre-Islamic Bedouin Arab poems. So, these words, this language moved very far through the Islamic world, through conquest and so on, into other cultures, and reappeared in the way that we're familiar with them now. So this is why someone like Ibn al-Qais is so shocking. Oh yes, and many a fine day I've dallied with the white ladies, and especially I call to mind a day at Dara Jul Jul, on the day I slaughtered for the maidens my riding beast, and oh, how marvelous was the dividing of its loaded saddle, and the maidens went on tossing its hacked flesh about, and the frilly fat-like fringes of twisted silk. This is the translation into English, mind you.